Hey guys, this is Faster U4 brought to you by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomaxa and Capital Cycles. If you're a cyclist, you want to go faster? Then let's giddy up. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Faster U4 brought to you by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomaxa and Capital Cycles. Hey, bike racing on the weekend. A weird one, the 80-kilometre poorly named Rua 50 individual time trial in Wairarapa. Possibly the sketchiest time trial of my life. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what I learned. Coaching tip of the week, I'll tell you what grinds my gears, and I'll look forward to this weekend's race on Saturday, which is the Trust House North Island Team Series Race 4. We're getting to the sharp end, guys. Alright, if you're looking at the screen, you'll see a fat guy in blue riding a bike. Big fat smurf. That's me. If you're not looking at the screen, it's me with a big hump on my back. And that's because for this last weekend's race, I wanted to try something which I had tested and found worked pretty well, namely the old camelback under the skin suit method. Why, do you ask, would you put a camelback under your skin suit with the tube sticking out to drink from rather than just having a bottle? Well, my friends, 3 reasons. 1, aerodynamics. 2, cooling. And 3, something else. Oh, that's right, actual volume of water storage. This was as part of my little plan to try to beat the course record at the Rua 50 80-kilometre individual time trial, which did not go to plan mainly because of the wind, which came up unusually. So let me just tell you firstly about that camelback under the skin suit thing. I went out during the week and tested it out, did some laps up and down the Hutt motorway. And it seemed from my testing data that it does reduce one's drag coefficient pretty well. I'm going to say that hump on the back, compared to no hump, the improved airflow between the helmet and your back is probably worth in the region of 10 to 20 watts, I think, on average, which is very significant. And for a long time trial like this was potentially going to be really important. That's why I did it. And unfortunately, the data from the actual event on the weekend isn't any good to use because the wind was so bad that it messed up all the aerodynamic data, so I have nothing reliable to work with. So I'm just going to have to experiment a little bit more with that. It does make me question, based on that sort of couple of experiences with it, I think it does work, and I think the first lot of data I got, which was good data on a relatively calm day, does back up the hypothesis that there is a good drag reduction there, which is probably why the UCI banned it a few years ago when you've got guys, Dave Zabriskie and co, who were trying this out. But it does make you question, well, okay, if they've banned that, are there other things you can do? Can you, have some sort of hump created by a radio or some other, maybe a polystyrene or something you can shove down your back? I don't know. Is it worth it? Maybe it's something they'll build into skin suits. I don't know. This is, of course, not a UCI ratified event, so none of these rules apply, and it's hardly like sticking a motor in your bike. I think it applies. Rules of genuine good faith riding apply. This is probably like the equivalent of having a disc wheel compared to no disc wheel, something like that. An interesting experiment. I froze it and provided a nice little bit of cooling, not to mention the nice cold fluid coming in when you're doing a reasonably hard effort. And it means that you can store a good amount of water. For this, I wanted to store 2 litres, so I was planning on riding about 2 hours, just under. So a litre an hour, obviously 2 litres, it's a bit hard to store on the bike, not to mention being less aero when you've got bottles hanging off. So I'm going to persevere with that. I'll let you know how it goes. As long as the club's all right with me doing it, I'm going to try a little bit more with that one, see how we go. Right, so this is the actual event, this 80-kilometre time trial from Martinborough through counterclockwise through Featherston, down the western side of Lake Wairarapa, taking a lefty back up towards Martinborough. Finished in 2 hours and 27 seconds or so, which was about 6 minutes longer than I wanted to get for the course record, or the club record held by Lee Campbell. And there is actually a couple of other records associated. So I think on this 3 or 4 years ago, Dave Rowlands evidently got 151 or so. And there may have been a guy, Ben Knight, who did around about a similar time, maybe even slightly better than that a few years back. He's a very solid time trialist. He's riding a fixed gear, I noticed, this time. He didn't go so well this time, neither did any of us because of the aforementioned wind. So I'll go through that, what happened. Distance of 80.3 kilometres, climbing of 407 metres, so just some kind of rollers and stuff in there, especially around the eastern side of the lake. Total of 2,159 kilojoules burned. That's like 10 hamburgers, I'm going to say. It's pretty chunky. Average speed 40 kilometers an hour on the nose. I remember looking at my computer coming up the last couple of Ks before the finish, and it was like 39.9, 39.9, 39.9, and I just ticked over the 40, a few hundred meters before the finish, which is why my time was pretty much was what it was, obviously. Heart rate 151, it's a nice sweet spot. So power for this, I wanted to target about 305 watts. My calculations were that should get me the record in regular conditions, but it was not regular conditions today. I averaged 291 watts for an EP of 303, so right about bang on ideal power. But when you're time trialing, you need to be able to apply consistent power, and because of the super windy conditions at a lot of the course, you couldn't just do that. Sometimes you just had to actually hold on and not pedal at all because the wind was so fierce, so that brings the power down a wee bit. Training load of 131, so it's about 2 recovery days worth. You can see it's always going to be a little bit different start for a long TT like this, where you want to get into very quickly as good a rhythm as you can. Now, I was probably one of the better riders there, but the best rider there was always going to be Hamish Bond, who is a nationally ranked, might be the national champion. He went to the Worlds. He's a very good time trialist, and he pretty much caught me, not exaggerating, within about 11 minutes, starting behind me. He was my 1 minute man, so he was always going to hammer me. So he caught me on the first climb out of Martinborough, which was pretty impressive. And there were very few parts of this course that you could get any rhythm on, so really it was a little bit like hanging on, applying power when you could, being consistent. I had the stretch here from Martinborough partway through to Featherston. That was reasonable. Just applying a nice 304 watts there, 84 RPM. So there were sectors where you could put down some decent power, but look at this. Coming into basically a couple of kilometres before and after Featherston was a mess. Look how my heart rate just plummets there, because I would have been quite happy to power along, but you can't power along when you're just being blown all over the shop. Average speed through there of 39, although there was periods where I was sub 20k an hour. Heart rate and power falling over the place because it's just holding on, much like everyone else was. All around that side of the lake was a bit of a disaster with the wind coming and going and gusting through the trees. Coming around the other side of the lake, it wasn't even that great because sometimes the tailwind was so extreme. We're touching sort of mid 60k an hour. I think in there, what am I, about 63, 64k an hour for sections along the eastern side of the lake there, and just a disaster. You need for a time trial. You know, when you're going that fast, it's actually not necessarily great either, because you're going so fast. You need to look up the road. You're covering such a big distance. You want to be safe. You don't want to be having your head down the whole time, and it's just a nasty disaster. You can see there's not a lot of decoupling there overall, so endurance was good enough. I think I could have probably put out another 10 to 20 watts, maybe even 30 watts, somewhere around about 330 watts on a good day for this period. So that was a good learning experience, which is, interestingly close enough to what I can do for a 1 hour time trial. So it's sort of like anything between sort of 1 and 2 hours. You get it. You can probably best off just targeting what you normally target for a regular 1 hour TT, or a little under if you like, but it's not really going to change much. It's all, around about your FTP in that position, or just under, a little under. So it's not, probably I could have been a little more aggressive on it. So yeah, not much to say about that apart from the fact it was a kind of a disaster because of the wind. Everyone's in the same boat though. So as far as results go, Hamish bombed. Look at that. So Hamish did a 1 hour 51.46, which I don't know how that compares to Dave Rowland's. It probably is a few seconds slower, but not much, if anything. And that just goes to show what a quality rider he is, because in the pictures he has an excellent aero position, quite high stacked at the front, but it looks really good. That's what a lot of the pros are doing now. I think everyone agrees that that wind was worth somewhere between 5 to 10 minutes for the course as a handicap, so Hamish would have been sub 145 for that ride on a good day, which is just to sort of give you an idea how extreme that was. I ripped out the 2 hours and 24 seconds, which was okay. Based on that sort of handicap of 5 to 10 minutes, I think I could have done somewhere close to 150 to 155 on a good day. Oh, just try again. Richard Van Looy coming in third with a solid 206. Ben Knight, the aforementioned, 208. And my man Ho Buke, 208 as well. Steve Orchard with a good ride, 211. And coming in, look at this time, Helen Monster Beatty coming up from Dunedin to race this event, 2 hours 13, first woman, beating the next best woman by over half an hour. That's pretty strong. Helen is an excellent time trialist, and actually it leads on to my next point in a minute, but I'll talk about that in a sec. And the teams category, so the 2 up, that was being taken out by Angus Taylor and Tyce Robinson with 207. Nice solid ride, followed by Philip Sutherland and William Van Wickham, 2 hours 17. Peter James and Mike Wilkinson third, 2 hours 23. I got rider of the day. It was quite good. I don't know why they didn't give it to Hamish as he handed my ass to me, but I'll take it. It's nice. So what I was going to say was it was kind of like, this leads on to my thoughts about what I learned coaching tip of the day, which is, whether it's raining or it's really windy or it's even really hot and sunny, whatever it's going to be, don't be the guy or the woman who grizzles about that. Just know that it's the same for everyone, more or less the same for everyone out there, and you can choose your attitude. So someone once told me at a horrible kind of work conference, I don't know, meeting thing, team building nastiness back when I worked for a large corporate, choose your attitude. And out of all the time I spent working there, it was probably the one catchphrase that I kind of like to hang on to and keep to this day, which is this notion that everything and everyone that happens around you, does things around you, everything that happens, how that goes into your cerebellum is dictated by you. How it goes in, I suppose, is dictated by all those things around you, about how you should process that, and what you think in your brain is entirely dictated by you. And it applies to bike racing because, of course, if it's pouring down, you can tell yourself, well, that's great, I'm good in the rain, or I'm going to be good in the rain today, or I'm going to learn how to be good in the rain. If it's windy, well, this is a great learning experience because I can use this to figure out how to best ride in the wind. Everything's a learning experience. And it's got to be like that with bike racing in general, not just conditions, but it's got to be like that. It's such a hard sport that if you want to do bike racing and you want to be a good bike racer, you have to choose your attitude on a regular basis, and you have to find ways to make things bearable that are unbearable. You have to find ways to make suffering bearable. You have to find ways to get through adversity, whether it's in one race or whether it's over a long period of time. One of my riders, a young guy, really impressed me this week when in the notes of his ride he said something like, he got his ass handed to him. I think he finished dead last, and that was a bit unexpected because he'd gone really well the week before. And he just said, well, that's great. It's a good opportunity to have a learning experience, analyze the data, figure out what went wrong, what I need to improve on. That is the attitude you need to have to be successful in this sport, I think. And a lot of people just in life in general, as well as cycling, don't have that attitude, and ultimately, it doesn't work out so great for them because they want to blame other people, they want to blame everything. In fact, even if it doesn't really matter what you blame, it's got to come back to you and your attitude and what you choose to do with it. It's going to make the difference. So that was something I noticed about Helen's riding on the weekend. Was I caught her around the western side of the lake, and I noticed when I looked up the road and saw her that she really kept a solid, good aero position on, even when it was difficult and gusty to do that. So there's two things there. This is a smaller person than me. I mean, it's all very well when you're an 80 kilo time trialist, but when you're like a 60 something kilo woman, you're getting blown around by the wind a bunch more. You've got disc wheel on and everything. That's very scary. It's scary enough when you're some massive man. It must be terrifying when you're smaller. And, so she didn't chicken out. I think really anyone chickened out. I think there was a crash, but no one chickened out of riding, which is pretty impressive. I was thinking there for a minute. I thought, this is pretty dangerous. I wonder if they're going to can it. But no. Everyone kept on it, including Helen, and she kept this great position up and did the basics right. And, you just persevere through that 10 minutes where it's crap around Fair Featherston. And there'll be times when it's good. And how you deal with that section is related to how everyone else does, because they're either going to deal with it better or worse than you. Well, set your mind to be the person who deals with that situation, those conditions, the best at that time. That's a whole new sort of competition that happens in that 10 minutes of the race, So that was good. So some really good rides from Fit Lad riders. I was really motivated to see that, so that was great. So it does grind my gears when the conditions are bad. But I guess tip of the day is choose your attitude. That's what I think. Next race is race 4 of the Trust House North Island Team Series. So this is Saturday, guys. Saturday, not Sunday. Saturday, not Sunday. 11th of November. Ring to Morrisville, Droves Rock, Alfreton, Tiramia. So in the Masters, we've got a 82.4k. So a steady standard length here. The main features is going to be twice going back and forth over Dreyers Rock Road. It's not a huge climb. It's a couple of maybe 4 to 6 minute power climb, VO2 max climb. It will be a little bit selective because there's a lot of other lumps in the course as well. Guys are going to have tired legs, but this sort of some selection may or may not come from that. It probably will, and because it's later in the series, people who have got lower series points may be allowed to go away. I probably won't be letting that happen, but it might happen in other grades. But you'll notice from looking at if you can see this, at the end of the course there is a decent climb. Kakaamu Road, I think it's called. Now, it's a little bit unclear exactly where they're going to finish this, but I suspect it's probably going to be right at the top. And if they do that, the climb itself kind of starts on this nasty, we've already commented, it starts on this kind of nasty, false flattish, rough, kind of slow road, and it gets steeper and steeper, and the climb itself is probably only a couple of k's long. I mean, it says here, veer right at 80.4, and it finishes at 82.4, so it's 2 k's. So it's very short, but it's kind of wide and open and slow, and it's quite steep. It is probably as steep as the little map there makes it look. So, I mean, I would say that if you want to attack very strongly, you might want to leave it quite late, because if you attack near the bottom, you're going to run out of steam pretty fast. Guys will be able to see you and reel you in. And you might also want to check actually where the finish line is. So this is finished. There's various places on this climb where events have finished before. As I say, I suspect it's right near the top. I don't know if this is going to be helpful at all. There's like a red letterbox on the left. It kind of looked from how the road was that it's probably going to finish about there. Whether or not that's going to be useful, I don't know. So I think there will be some sort of selection happen before that, but if it doesn't, it will go to art to pieces. You want to be near the front and very, very willing to suffer on that last climb. It won't last long, but it is very steep and will be very important for your placing. Riders who are going to go well in this sort of terrain are going to be, the smaller guys with a really good kick, and that's in the Masters 2 grade. Hope Buke will probably be able to outclimb Gary Anderson on this, I think. And guys like Rob Kilvington will go really, really well on this climb. I think I will be fairly mediocre on it. Guys like Callum Kennedy, if they're there, will be very good on this. And I probably have to be very careful of Brendan McGrath on this climb as well, given that he's close to me on the points. Also Matt Webber, he's up there. Andrew Young, I don't know how he goes on these climbs, so I couldn't comment. Probably judging by his form lately, pretty good. And there could be a surprise of someone who's not necessarily a really good FTP climber, but has a very short, good, powerful surge, especially if they don't get chased. That could be very dangerous. So in points, I'm leading the Masters 1 on 58 points. 5 clear of Brendan McGrath in second, and another 10 points back to Andrew Young, running for ZLI ride. Matt Webber, as I say, is pretty dangerous, but he's back on 37 points. But he's so dangerous, no one's going to let him go away. As Callum Kennedy is down there, he won the last race. He's only on 25 points, but people will be watching him because he's an excellent climber, short, long, everything really. Mark Donald as well, might go quite well on this. Okay, in Masters 2, Hope Buke. He's in the jersey, 4 points from Gary Anderson, and hopefully that will, for Buke, that will balloon out a little bit more after this weekend. Thomas Borschenstein, excellent time trialist, in third place there, but has only got half the number of points from Rob's on 36 as well, so it's possible. Oh, Becky, he's a good climber. So you've got a range of guys in the top, 7 there, who could be very threatening on this last climb. And in the open grade, who have we got there? 56 points. So only 2 points ahead. Josh Page in the jersey ahead of Marty Hartley-Brown, who's also on under 23, from Matt Webb-Smith in third and 48 points. Anthony Nortrh on 39. Dave Weaver's on 32. Eddie Hagen on 25. So a lot of these guys will be coming back from the Tour of Southland, and they should be, as long as they've recovered well, hitting pretty hard. So actually the elite grade could potentially see some changes this weekend. Could be interesting. All right, that's what I think. So that's the weekend. That's how it went. I'm looking forward to this weekend. After this weekend, of course, it's going to get, there's only one race to go in the series. And what that can mean is guys who are lower in the grade can often have a chance to get away. So my hot tip, if you are someone who wants to have a bit of a time trial and you're feeling frisky, I would say put your deep sections on and have a wee hack early in the piece. You never know how that might work out for you if you're not a threat in the overall. Be brave, guys. Steve Orchard, I'm talking to you. All right, as always, if you'd like a coaching plan from me, you can go to fitlab.co.nz. You can email me, steve@fitlab.co.nz. As always, this is brought to you by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomaxa, Capital Cycles. I'll see you on the weekend. Thanks for watching / listening to Fast You Fall, brought to you by FitLab, Capital Cycles, Tailwind Nutrition, and Biomaxa. If you'd like to get in touch for a coaching program or testing, you can get hold of me, steve@fitlab.co.nz, or go to fitlab.co.nz. Talk soon, guys.